magnificent morning, awesome afternoon, and excellent evening, wherever you may be in the world. Actually, we have 3 different countries here. We have India, we have the United States, and we have Rubina from Canada, which is kind of weird because she's really from Pakistan. So I don't know whether to call her Pakistani or Canadian, but she's here too. Having said that, I don't know why I look so dark, but I can't do anything about it today. We are going to have MindPlore with Carla and Friends. And we are talking about being our own best friend, not looking outside of ourselves, but looking within ourselves and being a good friend to ourselves. We started the discussion on Tuesday, and we're going to be ending it today or for this week. And let's get started. Shivali, would you like to kick us off, please?
Thank you, Carla.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Yes, I am Shivali from India. I live in the northern part of India, and I do a lot of things, but professionally, I'm a coach and trainer. But my main areas of interest are healings and things related to spirituality and reinventing myself. So that's my area of interest. Yes, Carla, just now you said something which struck me. Firstly, our topic tonight, once again, is about being our own best friend, loving myself, loving ourselves. And just now, Carla, you mentioned about looking outside and then looking within. I think that gives me the clue today, or the cue today. You see, most of the time, we are looking at the...
Can I add something? Because I find this very interesting. Someone in the audience says, why do we need friends? More importantly, why do we need to be our own best friend? I just read it as I was about to share it out. So I think we should actually answer that. Everyone does need a friend. But yes, our first friend and our best friend and our most important friend is ourselves. Now, Shivali, please. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that kind of...
Yes, I will connect. I will connect with this also, and I will try to associate what I was trying to say. So yes, we all need friends, of course. Friends come in all shapes, sizes, kinds. So whosoever has heard, even Robinson Crusoe, who was on an island, ultimately he had to find a friend for himself, or else the friend found him. So eons ago also, even God, God, I must have, it's coming to my mind. Why did God create the world then? Why did he create us? There has to be some secret mystery behind it, isn't it? So friendship, it depends on how we interpret it. What is friends to you and to me? But basically someone that we can speak to. That therein lies the key to communication also. Everything comes to an end if there's no one that we can call a friend. So should we have enemies? Enemies is just the absence of friends. Okay. So coming back to what I was saying earlier, Carla, that most of the time we spend our time on the externals, feeding our body, nourishing our body, which is important. I'm not denying it, the physical body. But the point is that if simply by eating, I remain healthy, yes, it's important that I must eat properly. I must nourish myself, both mentally and physically. I should be fit, so that I can maneuver through life, face its challenges. But there are many times, experiences when we have the best of things. We have the best of health. We have the best of relationships. We have the best of, luxury, everything we have. Yet we are not happy. That means by merely feeding the external needs of our body, it's not enough. And that makes me question, and which made me ultimately question myself that who am I? That inner journey begins. Then you start working on your inner self. And I who strongly believes in God, in God consciousness, and I strongly, there are many who say, have you seen God? I may not have seen God, but that doesn't mean God does not exist. So that's another topic altogether. But I strongly believe that yes, we have been created by the Supreme Father, the absolute Supreme Father. God has created us and He has given me this body. Is it merely to feed myself, to nourish my body, to take care of its material needs, or is it something beyond? That means I need to be my true friend. I am my true friend when I take care of that which is within this body. Me as a living entity. I as the soul. What am I doing for my soul? And that brings us to the point of purpose of my life. I think these two things are very deeply interconnected. If we are really wanting to be our own true friends, then we have to understand that we are not just these bodies, there's something beyond this. And when I'm able to nourish myself, when I'm able to spiritually nourish myself, my soul, I do activities which are meant to nourish my soul, then truly my experiences of the world through this body also begin to change. This is how I'm looking at this entire thing right now.
Wow.
Thank you.
Oh, what do you
Wow.
want to say, Pastor Billy?
Yeah, I was going to let Rubina go first. I mean, Shivali just gave us a wonderful encyclopedia about how to be our own best friend. But Rubina, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Pastor Billy. And Shivali, you, oh, wow, wonderful. I love what you said about we are not just physical entities. We are physical bodies and we are spiritual too. And unless and until we don't try to meet the needs for both, we will not feel satisfied and happy. So I always heard this statement from so many people that we all are born same, or another statement that at the level of soul, we all are same. And I always think about it, and I was trying to find out the answer of it, that how we all are same at the level of soul. And the answer I get was that it's and just few weeks ago I get it, that it's the innocence that we are born with. And every child, if we observe, is born with that same innocence, and it's that innocence that is actually our soul. And what happens over the passage of time is that that innocence gets buried under different kinds of labels. There's, after we get mature at the age of 6 or 7, we get our awareness and consciousness, and we started putting labels on our that innocence or that soul. We get different kinds of labels. Like if I am a daughter, I realize that, oh, I am a eldest daughter, I should be the responsible daughter. Then I start getting involved in my studies, and I am a graduate, I am a scientist, I'm a doctor, then husband, wife. So that innocence, which is our actually soul, it gets buried into under those labels. And more and more it gets buried deep down. More we go away from it, and more we feel unsatisfied, more we feel that emptiness and loneliness. And to fill up that gap, we have to scratch those labels. We have to find out that innocence again. we have to sit with ourselves. We have to become familiar with ourselves. We have to scratch those labels. We have to find out that innocence which we are born with, which people use that for that statement, like we all are born same, or we at the level of soul we all are same. And to observe it, the best is when you put children together from different race, religion, and different nationalities, like especially 2 3 year old kids. You have to observe them when they're playing together, how innocent they are. They don't judge each other on the basis of religion, race, nothing. They don't judge each other on the basis of what they are wearing, their clothes. They don't judge each other. Even they don't need a language. Sometimes it makes me so I feel amazed. Like they don't need any language or words to communicate with each other and to be happy with each other, to become friend with each other. What is that? What is the common thing in between them? That is that innocence, and which is actually our soul or our spirit. So if we are able to individually, we are able to find that out again, that is buried deep down under all those labels we get throughout our life. It'll be easy for us to become our own friend, and to get familiar with that innocence, and it'll be easy for us to become friend with others as well, because we will be more real, we will be more natural, more original, and we feel that we get that fulfillment, satisfaction, and that happiness that is needed for to be a content person, both physically and spiritually. And what Shivali said, that we are not just physical beings, we are spiritual beings too, and we have spiritual needs, and that both should need to be met in order to be satisfied and to be friend with ourselves.
Pastor Billy.
Yeah, wow.
Now you need to talk.
It is so exciting to be here with all of my friends and to hear their great information. And just I'm kind of filled to overflowing right now, so I'm about to burst, but I'll contain myself. And we need to be our own best friends. And Shivali and Rubina are correct that we are a trinity within ourselves. If I could use that illustration, that we are body, soul, and spirit. So yeah, we have to take care of our physical bodies. Even though I love to fast from food, and I've been on 10, 20, 30, 40-day water-only fasts. And I don't do that because I hate my body, but it strengthens my body. And imagine a physical exercise strengthening your emotional side of your person, but it strengthens, and then also your spiritual side, your intellectual side, and really your body, soul, and spirit in our lives, of every color, of every tribe, of every tongue. We are body, soul, and spirit. And I find in America, and I'll just make a quick commentary, that the reason that a lot of people are not their own best friends is, and they don't love themselves. And we're using the word love advisedly, because it's not like we're talking about narcissism, right? There are some people who are narcissists, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about that we are content within our own skin. And in America, I think there's a lot of people that deny their soul and their spirit. And so Americans, particularly where I am in New York City today, people are rushing around. Well, what are they doing? They're making money because they need to take care of their body. In other words, all their expenses. But yet, in the midst of that, they're not paying attention to their soul and to their spirit. That's why, for me, as a pastor and as a follower of Jesus Messiah, I have to pray. My wife and I, my bride of 43 years, Nancy, we are best friends, but we made a decision 44 years ago that 3 times a year we would get away for 24 hours and just to pray. And so that's one of the ways that we've become best friends. But going back to the original title, we have to be our own best friends. We have to be comfortable in our own skin, both body, soul, and spirit. And I love what Shivali had to say about nourishment. So I would say to our viewers and listeners, how are you nourishing yourself? How are you doing that? And are you doing that? And if we're not nourishing ourselves, how can we nourish others? There's a transaction that I believe occurs that when we nourish ourselves in body, soul, and spirit, that gives us the ability to nourish other people. If we're not nourishing ourselves, then how are we going to pour in my case, my 5 children, their spouses, and our 9 grandchildren? I have to nourish myself. And when my bride Nancy and I got away on that prayer retreat, as we do 3 times a year, and we were there by the ocean, it was a great nourishing event for 24 hours. And so I'd like to encourage our viewers and listeners to, you need to figure out how you can nourish yourself. And of course, that's another way of saying that you are your own best friend, body, soul, and spirit. So nourish yourself. Okay, there you
And
go.
when you say nourish yourself, what do you mean, Pastor Billy? What are
Well,
you telling people to do? And I'm going to have to close my camera for a few moments.
yeah, sure.
I will be hearing you.
Yeah, how do we nourish ourselves? Well, think about it. Most of us, at least in the West, we eat 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. So we are nourishing our physical bodies 21 times a week in a 7-day period, right? So, but how are we? So we are nourishing our body, but both Rubina and Shivali talked about, well, yeah, but how do you restore and nourish and rejuvenate and recreate your soul and your spirit? How I rejuvenate my soul is I talk with my bride of 43 years. I interact with her. I engage in conversation. We engage in intimacy. It's all of that engagement, and that actually fulfills my soul. And then how do I nourish my spirit? Well, I nourish my spirit as a follower of Jesus Messiah by praying to him. And so prayer and also fasting. I fast 3 days a week. I don't eat on Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. And as a result of that, that nourishes my spirit. But yet, think about it, the ancillary benefit, Carla, Rubina, and Shivali, is when we abstain from food, it actually, it's healthy for our body. It nourishes our body. It nourishes our soul, and it nourishes our spirit. So I'm a little crazy, okay? But that's what I do to nourish myself. And I encourage people to pray, to fast, and to be in relationship with your own thoughts, and also in relationship with God.
Yes, Reverend, I can relate to this very easily because about this food, just talking about food and the fasting thing that you're mentioning. When I was doing my Vedic studies and my scripture studies, so in the Bhagavad Gita also, it's mentioned about, the actually this food consciousness, survival. It's related to a survival. We need to eat because we need to survive, but we need to eat only that much which is needed, which doesn't happen. So I can easily relate to it. So if we are too much obsessed with food and not that kind of nourishment, then we are at a particular level, which is okay, which is fine. But gradually, as the higher consciousness is developing, and Reverend, I mean, I am too small a person to actually comment on you, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. With your level of consciousness, it is at a very, very high dimension. And that is why for you, food matters, but not the way it would matter for people like me, for example. I'm at a particular level. At the same time, it is not that at a particular time that food consciousness is coming in. It's like going up and down. Your vibrations go up and down. So, because the inner calling of the soul tells us that you are supposed to go beyond this food consciousness. That is why we have got the mind consciousness, you have the soul consciousness, you have the spirit consciousness. Those are the higher dimensions, which people discover through meditations, through prayers, through chants, through chanting, through incantations, through hymns, and reaching out to the supreme, reaching out to the divine. So therein lies the key to our nourishment. That how do we nourish the inner self or the I in me? I and this body are two separate entities. This I think we understand very easily, right? The I within me is not changing, but my body, external body, is changing. But the I remains the same, it remains the same. I'm born, I will die, I can die at any moment, but I actually don't die, only my body kind of perishes. So while I'm getting this lifetime, I need to do activities which will be pleasing to my soul and to my spirit, and which enables me to go on with my next journey whenever it has to happen. It's in God's hand. But I need to be prepared for that. So, how do I prepare myself? Otherwise, I who believe strongly in reincarnation, and through my meditations, I have experienced a few of my past lives, and that really opened up a new dimension for me, that I am a Christian, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Hindu. I mean, what's my true identity? My true identity, these externals is not my true identity. So I'm an Indian right now. I may have been a Muslim or a Pakistani in some birth. I could have been an American. But essentially, the soul, the spirit, has been traveling. So, do I keep on getting into this rut of cycle and death all the time? It's not about that. It's about God has given me this life. I owe this precious life to Him. So, in whatever form He places me, I'm supposed to nourish my inner self, the soul. And that connects me to the purpose of my life. So, I can relate to this fasting thing very easily. That why you're doing it, for obvious reasons, you are doing it. It's just a thought which is coming.
Wow.
Even I can relate to that fasting thing because, and I think it's in all the religions, it's been told that, and it's so powerful because it really fasting actually yes, it helps our physical body, but the strength our soul and our spirit gets from it is way beyond that the benefits our physical body gets. And yes, we have to nourish ourselves and our soul especially. And for that, we do prayers. We do, people, they do meditation like I do. Some people, uh, they do so many different kind of things. Recently, I find out that some people, they go out in nature, in woods, and they do tree hugging. They must have been getting some satisfaction. Their souls must have been getting some satisfaction from doing that. Some people, they do deep diving, sea diving. There is a complete universe underneath. There's a complete world underneath those waters. They must have been trying to connect their soul to that world, to that universe, been created by God, by Allah, and they must have been trying to connect to it and to get that nourishment for their soul actually. I mean, what would they be able to get from deep diving? What their physical bodies are going to get? Maybe some kind of benefit by holding their breath and doing breathing exercises. But actually, I believe that they are trying to connect their soul. They are trying to develop that deep connection with their soul. So they're trying to nourish their soul actually by doing so. So yes, fasting, I also agree that fasting is the most powerful way of one of the ways of like prayers. After prayers, actually fasting is the most powerful way of nourishing our souls.
And here, Rubina, I can add to something. Fasting is a term that we normally use in English. And herein lies the beauty of the Hindi, I could say the Sanskrit language. We use the word upvas. Upvas means being near to the Lord. Upvas. Vas means to be associated, to be in the company. Upvas, in connection with the Lord. So whatever fasting we are doing in India, the upvas, it is all to be in close association with the Lord, with
Love.
God.
Mm.
You know, so there we are doing our prayers. We are offering certain food to God, and then partaking of that. We first offer it to Him. I still remember in traditional families, even today, before taking honoring the food, they are actually praying to the God, thanking the Lord for the food that they have received. And in our Vedic tradition, we are supposed to first offer even that food to the Lord, to offer Him, and then we, take the rest of it. So all this is interrelated, actually. So what you're saying, I can completely understand. So fasting itself means, so then you will do those actually, not just randomly. Reverend is not just randomly doing it. He's not telling us that. He's just saying he lives on water or something. It is not that simple. He's doing something else. He doesn't need that water. He doesn't need that food at that time. He's doing other things. So I can perfectly relate to this. It's called upvas over here, being in connection with the Lord. That is fasting, true kind of fasting, not some whimsical fasting.
Oh
Oh, today
yes.
I will not eat that because I want to lose weight. Losing weight. Again, it's in the physical dimension. You can do that. It will help you physically also. But the soul consciousness is important.
Important.
Once the soul consciousness comes, then I will take care of this body also. Because my soul is experiencing life, my
Yeah.
spirit is experiencing things through this physical dimension. So if I have a strong body, if a reverend has a strong body, then he can travel more. He can reach out to more people. So he needs to take care of his body also. So perfect balance. Oh, wow, lovely.
Yeah, and if I could just, Rubina and Shivali, thank you so much. You're encouraging me, and of course, people in the U.S. they say, Pastor Billy, how do you stay so healthy? And then when I tell them, they're like, okay, I'm not going to do that. But part of what we're I'm going to say this about how do we become our own best friend. When we do things, now I say this as a follower of Jesus, when we do things to deny ourselves, it puts us in better touch with ourselves, if that makes sense, right? So I deny myself by not eating for 3 days a week, or by 10, 20, 30 days, or 40 days. Every year I do a 40-day water only fast. Is it difficult? Yes. I've been doing this now for about ever since my conversion to Jesus Messiah, about 50 years. And so it helps me put a focus on God, of course, and my relationship with God. But yet it really, and I hope that people understand this, but when you deny yourself and you're looking internally, and it's almost as if you go into a different realm, okay? And when you deny yourself, it gets very introspective, and it allows me to think through my life, and it allows me to think about, yeah, do I really love my life? Do I love myself? And that goes back to how do we become our own best friends? So I'm weirder. I'm more weird than the next person, but how I help myself become a better friend to myself, if that makes sense. I hope it makes sense. And it is by denying myself from certain things. So when you when I pray, I'm denying time with other human beings. But yet when I pray, I'm not denying my relationship with God, with Jesus. And so again, that helps me become my own best friend. And I always go back to, if we can't love ourselves in a good, positive, affirming way, if we can't love ourselves, then how can I love other people in my family or where I go? How can I love people in the IDP camps? You know, most people don't want to go to IDP camps unless they have a job with the UN or with, you know, a job that takes them there. But how do I go to the internally displaced people's camp and love the people that are there, whether they're Iraqi, Yazidi, Syrian, Afghani, Pakistani? It's because I love myself, that I'm content with myself. I know that I'm created in the image and likeness of God. And therefore, because I love myself, I can love other people. I mean, that's why a year ago today, just a little segment, is that I helped to evacuate 100 Hazara Muslims from Kabul, Afghanistan, and they're now in safety in Islamabad, Pakistan. And the first family that we evacuated, I mean, check this out. We got them on a PIA flight, Pakistan International Airlines flight, flew them from Kabul to Islamabad, which is about a 45-minute flight. The wife, it was a husband, wife, pregnant 9 months, and their 5-year-old son. And the day that they landed in Islamabad, she gave birth to a little girl. And she just turned 1 on October 7th, 2022. How was I able to do that? And it's because I'm my own best friend. And because I have sowed into my life through prayer, through fasting, through relationship with Jesus, then I can care for now 100 Hazara Muslims that we evacuated out of Afghanistan that are now in safety in Pakistan.
And that's the whole point, that when we're looking at others for love, it becomes very difficult to be able to give to another person. Someone in the chat, there's 2 messages, but I want to say about one. He said, how will I make friends? I don't have any friends. Well, first be a friend to yourself and take care of yourself. Do you have anything to add, my friends who are here? Because, you know, you're more concerned about yourself right now. But being concerned with yourself and keeping yourself so enclosed in your own body that you're forgetting the whole world is yours and you can do whatever you want. Shivali, you're smiling.
Shivali always smiles.
No, because Carla always says things which means, you know, like I start thinking. It's about, if the question is that, how do I make friends? So I really don't know about this person, but it's so easy to make friends. You have to just reach out. And if you're not able to make friends, that means you have to look within yourself. Why are you denying this? It's self-love also. Having a friend means you love yourself. And you want to share yourself with someone. You want to share yourself with someone. So it's so easy. Just go out. There's so many people who are waiting to meet you. You never know. I don't know who this person is, Carla, but all I can say is he or she has to just reach out. There could be people waiting for him or for her. You never know who's waiting out there. So what is it that prevents you from being friends? So you can begin with yourself. Then why are you denying yourself that? Is it some fear? Is it lack of courage? Or is it just you don't feel like? I mean, this is quite strange. How can you not have a friend? A
Right.
bird, maybe, an animal, maybe. Don't you have friends in nature? Start with nature. Start with
Even a
birds.
flower.
Yes, yes. Friends come in all shapes, sizes, kinds.
And even your own house could be your friend.
Your friend, yes. And there is this Rumi saying, I think I'm not saying it wrong. It's the whole world is inside you. So try to search inside you, and once you'll be able to be friend with yourself, the world inside you will be so easy. People will start getting attracted to you. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to make friends. The people will automatically start connecting to you.
Yeah, and that's a great thought, Rubina. If you just, I think you used the word attracted, right? We attract people. Well, how do you attract friends? To answer this question, and well, we can, or I can attract friends when I am my own best friend, right? I mean, if you hate yourself,
Self,
you
yes.
don't want to spend time with yourself, and therefore other people will not want to spend time with you, because you're grumpy, or you're acerbic, or you're acidic, or you're angry, or you're bitter about something. I mean, I think in my life, and I look at the people I know in the 18 countries and in the US and Canada, most people I know are very bitter because they've been offended in their past. And so that bitterness, what we don't, and I teach on this all the time, that bitterness is acid to our souls and to our spirit. And so if we are unable to resolve relationships, if we're unable, and I'll throw out another word, forgiveness, and if we're not able to forgive other people, then that's going to be a heavy weight on ourselves, and then we can't even forgive ourselves. So becoming our own best friend, I'll throw something new in here, is forgiving ourselves. Okay. And in my Christian context, we call it confession. And when we confess our wrongs to God, he cleanses us, he washes us. And when we're washed, think about that. When we're washed, then we can love ourselves, right? Because we smell good. I mean, I'm using it in a metaphysical way, that, who likes to be around people who smell, right? If somebody's unwashed, we're going to ask them, look, could you put on some perfume or deodorant, or could you go take a bath? I know that sounds mean, but it's not. But yeah, but when we're bitter inside, that ugly smell also comes out. And that's why we don't attract people. But if we love ourselves, and we are our own best friends, and we're happy with ourselves, then guess what? We're going to be like a light. And during the nighttime, what do lights attract? They attract all kinds of bugs, right? And as a result of that, light always attracts things. That's why when we're in a dark space and someone turns on a light, what do we say? Thank you for turning on the lights. Or when we have a power outage, we get very concerned. But when we light a candle, or we turn on a flashlight, or when the power comes back on, we're very, very happy. So Rubina and Shivali, you've said some great things about how can we attract people, and we attract people by becoming our own best friend.
And
Right.
one thing Pastor Billy, sorry, Carla, go ahead. And one thing Pastor Billy was talking about, like washing ourselves. So a thing came to my mind, like prayer is a strong way, is the best way, one of the best ways to wash ourselves, to get rid of all that dirt or that dust, and which is filled, our hearts are filled with it. Actually, it's a heart cleansing. our heart should needs to be cleansed to every day. I think what I do is before sleeping, before going to bed, I practice this self-forgiveness and practice forgiveness, like forgiving other people as well. So there's so many ways to cleanse our hearts, and when once our heart gets cleansed, it's easy for us to be a person who can attract so many people around us, friends around us. There's no need to get worried about it.
And that's important because friendship goes beyond this body. You know, if you think of it, our friends, our lovers, our whatever, we're only separated because we have skin and bones, and that separates us and makes us different. But what connects us and keeps us alive is one thing, and it always keeps us alive, and that's our breath. If we're not breathing in and out, we're not on the planet. We're not on the planet at all. But once we're breathing in and out, we begin to realize, hey, the planet is all ours. But we don't realize it because we're so stuck in that individuality. Also, someone else said something, I can't pronounce his last name. Altaf Anger, well, we'll let that go. But I like what he said. We are the production of our surroundings. We are supposed to be what people surrounding us want us to be. Being best friend of our own can make us self-centered. Is that really true? Does it make us self-centered, or does it allow us to care for someone else? If we're always giving and giving and giving, and we don't take time to sleep, we become exhausted and we can't give to another person. But if we sleep and get some rest, and we remember to eat every once in a while, we don't have to eat big 3 meals a day every day, Pastor Billy. And fasting is very important. But if we don't take care of ourselves, how can we take care of someone else? Pastor Bill.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go. I agree. Go ahead, Shivali.
So just one thing I want to say, like if you're not, nourishing yourself, how can you reach out to others? Because that means,
Right.
you're not conscious about that. See, if I want to love someone, I should understand, I should have the experience of love also. And that experience starts with myself. Again, once again, like being grateful for what I am and who I am. Then only I can appreciate the beauty of others also. This is what I was thinking. Yes, Reverend?
Pastor Billy.
Yeah, and
Come back to the show. I don't know what you're doing.
I'm taking notes about things that people say.
Oh,
Yeah, I listen. I'm an inveterate note taker, so because I can always refer back to them. We a little bit earlier we were talking about forgiveness, and there's a prayer that we pray in church, and I pray it, and some may be familiar with it, but we call it the Lord's Prayer, and it talks about forgiveness in that, and it talks talks about forgiving the offenses of other people. So, and I'll expound on that. And so bitterness doesn't grow up inside of us. There's a great verse from the Bible, in the Christian Bible, that talks about that bitterness. If we don't resolve it, it becomes a seed of offense and will infect other people. So if we're not our own best friend because of bitterness, because of lack of forgiveness, because we haven't forgiven, I do a lot of marriage counseling, and I know that none of us on the call here are surprised, but the lack of forgiveness among married couples, it always astounds me. And I live a life of forgiveness. People know that I'm always asking for forgiveness. And so as a result of that, as we forgive ourselves, and as Rubina said, you know, that self-cleansing that she does before her head hits the pillow when she goes to bed at night, wow, that has to be a daily exercise as we review the events of the day. And as we can forgive ourselves and be our own best friend, then we can forgive others. So forgiveness is really the warp and woof of human life. Think about that. I think that's a quotable quote, is that forgiveness and I'll use another big word, repentance, and living a life of asking others for forgiveness. That is the very warp and woof of human life. You know, it's the warp and woof for those that are listening. The warp and woof is how cloth is made. There's the warp and then there's the woof, and that when you put it on those looms, that's how it all comes together. So forgiveness is the warp and woof of human life.
Rubina?
Yes, so Pastor Billy talked about bitterness. Yes, we have to get rid of all those negative emotions as soon as possible. If we start carrying them for a long period of time, then obviously it gets more strong and strong, and
Yeah,
it'll be like we get infected. It's like a disease
it is.
for our souls, for our hearts, and that is what inhibits us, or what stops us from becoming our own friend and from becoming friend with others. So things happen in everybody's life. No one's life is perfect. We do mistakes. People around us do something to us. We have to get rid of those negative emotions as soon as possible and forgive ourselves. If we do something wrong with someone, sometimes we're not able to, as I said earlier on Tuesday, that sometimes you're not able to apologize to that person. But then we have to decide that how long we are going to suffer from that guilt. So we have to forgive ourselves. Self-forgiveness is so important that I just realized in past few years that it's even way more important than forgiving others is also important. But I've seen some people, they put themselves in that conditions of, in those conditions of self-guilt, and it is so deteriorating for their soul, for their health, for their spiritual health, and even for their physical health. And so yes, it's very important to get rid of negative emotions as soon as possible, to share it with someone, throw it out, throw it to some person you feel comfortable throwing with that. Like to me, it's my mother. I try to share with her. I try to share with God. God is the best friend. Like we do 5 times prayers. In the days when I feel stressed, I feel like some anxiety or some depression, I prolong my prayers. That like we bow in our prayers and we prostrate in our prayers, we Muslims. So I prolong those actions when we bow and when we prostrate, and it gives me so much relief. We all can find out ways. We all belong to some, beliefs in some religion. We should, and we have to follow the rules we have been told, and we have to make a strong connection with God. That is the ultimate relief we all can get.
Thank you, Shivali.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yes.
I want to go back to something Rubina said. You say first of all, are we trying to do it, or are we doing the best we can?
Doing the best we can, we all.
Because when you say trying, that's like, well, maybe not. But when you accept what you're doing, then you are doing the best you can.
No, we all are doing the best we all can. I think.
Right. And even if you don't feel it, you're doing your best.
True.
But in forgiveness, I love this topic because when we are forgiving, Rubina, are we forgiving others? You're okay. Sorry, he had to do drilling and he wanted to make sure you couldn't hear it. Could you hear the drill?
No.
No.
Mhm.
It's been a little confusing for him. He speaks only Spanish and I speak only English, and we're getting the English together, getting it together. And his bosses speak English and speak to him most of the time.
We forgive him for his drilling.
Let me yell that in. Hey, we forgive you for the drilling. But we
Carla,
do.
you're
We
crazy.
really don't care. Basically we think, oh, that other person did us wrong. But I've been noticing recently that if I notice something that I don't like in someone, actually I've been noticing it more and more in the past few years, it means that's in me, and I do that to the person. And I need to watch out for it. So when someone comes to us and does something we don't like, is it because it's teaching us something that we do to another person that they don't like? Rubina, was that clear? Maybe it wasn't.
Yes, that what you are asking me is clear, but it's yes, that to some extent it's true. It's right. Like the other person is kind of a mirror to us. In a way, you are
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
But again, because we are not perfect beings, we are not perfect human beings, so we get offended. We all have flaws. So if it's something is happening to me, someone is reacting to me or acting to me because of something I have in my personality, even then there are chances that I get offended. I don't like that. So at the end, how am I going to be at peace with whatever will happen?
Yeah.
How? Like at the end, I have to learn to, and I have to practice self-forgiveness and forgiving that person as well at the end, because we all are not perfect. We all have flaws in ourselves. We all have negatives and positives, and we all have weaknesses and strengths. So we have to be self-aware. Like I have to be self-aware enough that I can be wrong. At least I have to admit when I'm alone, I'm sitting with myself, I have to admit it. Like I'm admitting in front of you that yes, the other person, the other people around me are kind of mirrors. And there are chances that if someone is acting with me, behaving with me in a way or reacting to me in a way, it could be my fault. It could be me. I am responsible for that. At least I'm admitting this. So I have to be self-aware enough to admit what are my flaws, what are my strengths and weaknesses. At the end, I can do mistakes. Mistakes can happen. Other people can do things to me, wrong things or bad things. So at the end, the thing is to learn to forgive, to self-forgiveness and to forgive others.
I don't completely agree, because I think when we forgive, we're now looking at ourselves. And when we're looking at ourselves and doing, you can tell, I mean, maybe I'm off the wall. I've been told I'm off the wall many times in my life. But when we forgive ourselves and say, okay, that's fine, it's easier to move on. But when we stay like, oh no, Pastor Billy said that to me, I must be a mess, and I get stuck in what Pastor Billy says to me, I am, and I want to forget. Oh, I have to forgive him, but I really don't want to forgive him right now. Are we helping ourselves move forward? I don't know if I said that clearly. Shivali, you look too contemplative. So I want you to laugh and smile and move forward.
I'm going to
Shivali
say,
is her own best friend. She was spending time with her best friend, which is herself. That's why she looks so contemplative.
Oh, okay. I'll buy that one.
Yes. Okay. Good.
something which started, something which Reverend was mentioning, and then Rubina was taking it up in a very big way, and then Carla was mentioning. I was just trying to connect, listen to all of you very carefully. So I look reflective, but actually I'm listening very carefully. Uh, Forgiveness, yes, that is certainly important. And even more important than forgiveness is compassion. You know, compassion is even on a higher level than forgiveness. Compassion is like, if I go back to my original point, that if I know who I am beyond just this bodily identities of mine, likewise, I recognize the other person also, that he too or she too is a living entity like me, you know, then the sense of compassion starts coming in. It's much easier then to forgive. It's much easier then. Otherwise, sometimes it's very difficult to forgive. I don't think it's very easy to forgive. No, not at all. It is not that, okay, just forgive. It should come from within, not artificially. And that comes only with the deep consciousness when you are compassionate for yourself and for the other person. And the second thing that I was thinking about, where you were talking about mirror, you know, if I feel that there's too much of a particular thing which is happening in the externals, it could be by way of incidents, by way of certain experiences, there's a pattern which is recurring again and again and again, then it makes us pause. That why is it happening? Because most of the time, what happens? We are pointing fingers to the other side. He said this, she said this happened, that happened. But then, if I look at it in a very intelligent way, I soon realize that no, Shivali, there's something else which is happening here. That is the time when I do my self reflection, my thoughts, I cleanse my energy, I raise my vibrations through whatever means XYZ. And then gradually I notice that that which was appearing not so good, uh, you know, everything seems to be smoothing out. How does that happen? It's about that mirror thing. That whatever is happening outside is being created by my own mind. So I'm attracting those kind of vibes more and more. I'm attracting that kind of energy more and more. The moment I change my internal self, my experiences of the world begin to change. How does it happen? Well, it just happens. It just happens. So these are the thoughts which are coming to my mind. And once again, I say that compassion, looking at each other's at a soul level, at the spirit level, and also remembering that God, the Supreme Father, has created us. We are all His children. We are all like a big family. It sounds very idealist. It sounds very perfect. And we are not perfect. We know that. But uh, we can certainly take baby steps, because otherwise we are not being friendly with ourselves. We wallow more in self pity, we wallow more in that fear, we remain disconnected with others, whereas we are supposed to connect with others internally and externally. So it's all related actually. So compassion, I feel, is even more important than forgiveness. Once you're compassionate, forgiveness is taken care of. Just by being forgiving is not enough because you don't forget. I may forgive, but I may not forget. It's there in my subconscious mind. It'll again get triggered at some point. Oh, at that time you had said this and I had forgiven you. At least I do it. I'm not perfect. I'm very much a imperfect person right now. So I think when I begin to understand my own true identity and I understand the others also, I become more compassionate, more understanding, more forgiving also as a result. So, Carla, that's why I was contemplating, reflecting. A lot of things are going
Wow.
on. I can relate to my own life and my own
Yeah.
experiences.
Wow. I know we're getting ready to conclude here, Carla, and thank you so much for having us on the MindPlore today. Rubina used a word a few minutes ago, and I always like to compare body, soul, and spirit. And she used the word disease. And I thought to myself, as soon as we get sick, what do we look for? We look for remedies, right? We have a headache, we're going to take a pill. We have a backache, we're going to look for a heating pad. We look for remedies anytime we have illness, sickness, or disease in our body. But how often do we look for a remedy when our soul is sick or our spirit is sick? And I know all of you agree that when our soul and spirit are sick, guess what it affects? Our bodies. And when we have a sick soul, when we're not best friends with ourselves, it leaks out from our soul, it leaks out from our spirit, and guess what? Our bodies become sick. So all the more reason to be our own best friend. And I'll conclude with that, Carla. Thank you, Shivali and Rubina. Thank you. I've got to take my next door neighbor to a doctor's appointment.
Thank you so
Thank you,
very
Carla.
much. And you're
Thank you.
right. What you just said is so important. Unless we take care of ourselves, we cannot take care of anyone else. And I think that's a perfect way to end the show. And we are up to the hour. Do you want to say anything, Shivali or Rubina?
No,
No, thank you, Carla.
Pastor Billy said perfectly. That's perfect. He said what he said.
It was absolutely.
When our souls get sick, our bodies get sick.
And if we would only know to realize that if we are sick, it's something happening in our mind and how we are thinking. Okay, guys, we are going to end now. Thank you, Pastor Billy, for reminding us. And I've been a little distracted because of everything happening in here. I think we're very fortunate to have what we have. And people, if you don't know, this show is also on my YouTube channel with all my shows, and you can tune in there and watch us at any time at Giggle Fest University on YouTube. And can we all wave goodbye? Bye, everyone.